The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke still rose from the broken machines. Fires burned low, glowing in the alien evening light. Ash covered everything like gray snow. Velia stepped carefully across the ruined ground. She was small compared to the armored corpses around her. Her purple skin shimmered under the twin suns. In her hand she held a scanner and a cloth. Her job was simple: clean up, tag any bodies, and leave. She had done this many times before. She didn't ask questions. She didn't touch the human bodies with curiosity. They were extinct, or so they said. But today was different. Today, under a burnt-out alien ship wing, she saw something, a blanket. Old and dusty, half covered by sand and metal. Something under it was shaped differently, too big for her kind, too soft for machines. Velia knelt, her breath slow. She reached out with her scanner. No signal, no life sign. Just another body, she whispered. She pulled the blanket back gently. It was a man. A human burn marks covered his arms. His chest was wrapped in torn cloth. Blood dried into the fabric. His face was hidden under grime and soot. But his shape, tall, strong, with those strange flat features, was unmistakable. Velia stared at him for a long moment. She had never seen a human this close before. Her teachers told her they were wild, cruel, impossible to trust, but this one looked broken. I'll tag it and move on, she told herself. She took out her cloth, dipped it in the cleaning gel, and began wiping his chest. One long swipe across the ribs, another across the shoulder. Suddenly, his chest moved. Velia froze. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared in shock as the man's body trembled slightly under her hand. Was it her imagination? A leftover spasm? She leaned in, closer. Nothing. She touched his neck. Still no pulse. She was just about to move when he gasped. A sudden, ragged, painful breath. Velia jumped back and dropped the cloth. Her heart pounded in her chest. The human's eyes didn't open, but his lips moved. A soft sound escaped, almost like a whisper. Cold. Velia stared at him. He was alive. He was actually alive. No, this can't be, she whispered. She scanned him again. Now the scanner beeped. Faint but real. Low heartbeat. Failing systems. But still alive. She looked around. If anyone saw this, they would report her. She would be punished for not destroying the human immediately. But something in her chest ached, some strange feeling she couldn't name. Velia looked back at him. He was still breathing. Barely. She reached out and brushed hair from his face. His skin was rough and warm. Why are you still alive? She whispered. No answer. Of course not. She stood up, looking around the battlefield. Other workers were far away, busy with their own zones. No one had seen her. Not yet. She looked back at the man under the blanket, then at her cleaning cart, then at the small locked lab inside the wrecked ship. A crazy thought entered her mind. It was dangerous, stupid, possibly treason, but it wouldn't leave her. She bent down and whispered to the human, "Don't die, not yet." Then she gently lifted his arm and wrapped the blanket tighter. With all her strength, she pulled his heavy body toward the shadows. Step by step, breath by breath, her heart racing, each second. She expected someone to shout, to see, to stop her, but no one came. And when the lab door finally opened with a soft hiss, Velia dragged the human inside and locked it shut. In the dark, she leaned over him again. She wiped more of the dirt from his face. His eyes fluttered but didn't open. Velia sat back against the wall, her chest still shaking. What am I doing? She whispered to herself. But the answer was already clear. She was saving him, even if it cost her everything. And as she sat in silence, a small sound echoed in the lab. A breath, another heartbeat, and then a quiet, whispered word. "Thank you." Velia's eyes widened. He was awake. Velia stared at the human in silence. Her hands were still shaking. The whisper she had heard a moment ago, "Thank you," kept repeating in her head like an echo. He was awake, at least partly, but this wasn't safety. This was a crime. Helping a living human was one of the highest violations under the unified law. They said humans were extinct for a reason. Dangerous, unpredictable, violent. No alien species was allowed to hide or assist them. Velia knew this, yet here she was. She looked down at the man. His chest moved slowly, and his lips were dry and cracked. He whispered again, voice rough and weak, "Water." Velia hesitated, then reached into her supply pack. She pulled out a small tube of rehydration gel and gently placed it near his mouth. He sipped slowly, barely able to move. His eyes remained closed, but color returned to his face little by little. "What's your name?" she whispered, unsure if he could hear her. No reply came this time, only slow breathing. Velia leaned her head back and closed her eyes. Her thoughts were racing. What do I do now? She could not leave him in the lab. The security sweep would begin in 2 hours. Drones would scan the entire crash site, including hidden rooms like this one. If they found a living human here, she would be arrested or worse, and he'd be executed on sight, no questions asked. Velia stood up and walked in circles, biting her lower lip. She could leave now and pretend she saw nothing. Let the drones find him and remove the problem, or she could move him somewhere even deeper, a place no drone had scanned in years. An old tech bay under the ship's main reactor, broken, dark, and forgotten. No one went there, not even scavengers. It was dangerous, but private. She looked back at the human. He was unconscious again, but alive. Barely. Velia made her choice. Again. She pulled a half-broken left cart from a supply wall. With a quiet grunt, she lifted the man onto it. The old cart buzzed faintly as it hovered a few inches above the floor. Velia pushed it slowly through the back exit of the lab. The ship groaned around her, old metal and shattered beams echoing with every step. Dust fell from above. In the distance, she could already hear the hum of patrol drones. She moved faster, guiding the cart into a hidden tunnel. Old wiring sparked near her head. She ducked under it, careful not to let the cart slam into the wall. As she turned the final corner, she heard something. A voice, a soft male voice. "Where am I?" She froze. The human was awake again. Velia crouched beside him quickly. "Don't talk," she whispered. "You're hurt." His eyes fluttered open blue, sharp, filled with confusion and pain. "You're not one of them," he muttered, trying to lift his head. Velia gently pushed him back down. "Lie still," she said. "You'll die if you move too much." "Why help me?" he asked, eyes full of doubt. Velia didn't answer right away, because she didn't know the answer herself. Instead, she said, "Because you're alive." The human closed his eyes again. "Thought I was gone," he whispered. Velia's heart ached for reasons she didn't understand. They reached the tech bay. A heavy rusted door stood between her and the safest place she could think of. She entered an old Code 1 she had memorized during her engineering training. With a slow creak, the door opened. Darkness, silence, dust, perfect. She pushed the cart inside and sealed the door behind her. Lights flickered as old energy sources tried to activate. Just enough to see. She pulled a thin mattress from the corner and shifted the human onto it. He groaned in pain but didn't fight. Velia searched old cabinets and found weak healing gels. Not much, but better than nothing. As she applied the gel to his wounds, he flinched. "Hurts less than before," he said quietly. "You need rest," Velia replied, wiping sweat from his brow. He stared at her through half-closed eyes. "What's your name?" She paused. "Velia," he smiled faintly. "Pretty name." "I'm Reed," Velia blinked. A name. He had a name. He wasn't just a human, he was Reed. And now he was her responsibility, like it or not. Suddenly, the wall console beeped. A patrol drone was entering the ship. Velia looked down at Reed, then at the door. Her heart raced. This was no longer just about kindness. This was survival, and it had already begun. Velia stood frozen in the doorway. The soft red light on the wall console blinked steadily. It was the patrol drone. It had entered the outer corridors of the shipwreck. She had only minutes before it swept this section too. Behind her, Reed lay. On the mattress, barely conscious, he stirred slightly and whispered, "What's happening?" "She," Velia said, turning off the small light. Darkness surrounded them again. She moved quickly across the room, feeling the wall with her hand until she found the hidden hatch. A leftover from the old war. Few knew it was still there. She pulled it open, revealing a narrow crawl space that led deeper underground. She didn't want to use it, but she had no choice now. The drone would scan the room and detect a living body. She had to hide him, and fast. "I need you to trust me," Velia whispered to Reed. He blinked slowly. Not fully understanding, Velia took a deep breath, then carefully pulled him off the mattress and slid him onto a flexible emergency stretcher. She pushed the stretcher into the tunnel, covering it with cloth and old metal scraps to block heat signals. Just in time, the door to the tech bay hissed open. Velia turned calmly, trying not to show her fear. A small round drone floated inside, scanning every surface with green light. "State your purpose," it demanded in a mechanical voice. "Maintenance," Velia said, holding up her ID badge. Old tech logbook showed energy spike in this bay. She walked toward the wall panel and tapped random buttons, just clearing false signals. The drone paused, its lights flickering. Then it hovered slowly around the room, scanning the floor, the ceiling, and even the mattress. Velia's fingers gripped the panel tightly, her palms sweating. She knew that one wrong move, one strange heat signature could expose Reed. And her. The drone scanned the pile of metal in the corner, but the shielding Velia placed over Reed was holding. Finally, after a long pause, it beeped. "No biological anomalies detected." Velia exhaled quietly. "Resume duties," the drone said, floating back through the door. As soon as the door closed, she rushed back to the pile. "Reed," she whispered, pulling off the covering. His face was pale, but his eyes opened slowly. "That thing almost saw me." "You're safe," Velia whispered, trying to calm her racing heart. But the fear hadn't left her, not fully. She helped him back onto the mattress and sealed the crawl tunnel again. Then, for the first time since she found him, she allowed herself to sit down and breathe. After a few minutes, Reed spoke. "Why are you helping me?" Velia looked at him but didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, she asked, "Who are you really? Why were you on that battlefield? You weren't just some random soldier." Reed's gaze turned distant. His fingers trembled slightly as he tried to sit up. Velia moved to help him, but he shook his head. "I need to tell you something," he said, voice low and dry. "They didn't just capture me. They used me," Velia frowned. "Used you? For what?" He looked at her with eyes full of pain. "For experiments. Genetic ones," he whispered. "They were trying to create something. A hybrid weapon." Velia's blood ran cold. "Hybrid?" "Yes." Reed nodded weakly. "They thought human biology could be shaped, modified, mixed with alien tech. They injected me with nanits, some old technology even they didn't fully understand." He pulled up his sleeve, revealing strange, glowing lines under his skin. They pulsed softly alive. Velia stared, her voice barely a whisper. "What is that?" Reed gave a small, bitter laugh. "Something that shouldn't exist," he said. "They thought I died during the process, but I didn't. I escaped during the last battle, but I was already half dead by then." He looked at her, pain in every word. "I didn't want to be a weapon," he whispered. "I just wanted to go home." Velia's chest tightened. She had only seen humans in war footage and warning posters, but this man, he was broken, not dangerous. He wasn't a monster, he was just lost. "You still have a home," she said softly. "I'll help you find it." Reed smiled faintly. "No, Velia," he said. "You are my home right now." Velia didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not her teachers, not her fellow workers, no one. For a moment, silence filled the hidden room. Only the faint hum of old power coils echoed in the distance. But Velia knew this quiet wouldn't last. Now that she knew the truth, now that he knew it too. The danger was only beginning, and somewhere deep in the ship, something else was waking up, a signal, a forgotten machine, and it was listening. Velia sat on the cold floor beside Reed. The flickering light above them buzzed softly. Dust floated in the air. Everything felt still but not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that came before something big. She looked at the strange glowing lines on Reed's arm. They moved slightly under his skin, almost like they were alive. Reed had fallen back asleep after revealing the truth. But his breathing wasn't normal. It was deeper, heavier, like his body was preparing for something. Velia checked the scanner again. His vitals were unstable. And now a strange signal was appearing in the readings, something she couldn't identify. Not alien, not human, not even mechanical, something in between. She reached out and touched his forehead. He was burning with fever. The nanits inside him were waking up again. "No," she whispered, standing quickly. She opened a nearby cabinet and pulled out a cooling patch. She pressed it to his neck, trying to slow the reaction, but even as she did, his skin pulsed again, more lights crawling under his arm and shoulder. Reed gasped and opened his eyes, but this time, his pupils had changed. They were glowing faintly blue. "Velia," he whispered, voice cracking. "I think it's starting again." "What's starting?" she asked. Reed clenched his jaw. "They called it Project Hybrid Dawn, the thing they did to me. The nanits were designed to respond to stress and pain. When I get too weak, they try to fix me by changing me." "Changing you into what?" Velia whispered. Reed looked away. "I don't know," he said. "I escaped before they could finish, but I saw what happened to others before me. They became weapons monsters with minds lost to programming." Velia's heart pounded. If the nanits were waking up now, they could take control of Reed at any time, and he would become something else, something dangerous. "No," she said firmly. "You're not going to be one of them." Reed looked at her, surprised. "You don't even know me," he said. "I could turn into a killing machine right in front of you." She shook her head. "I've seen your fear, your pain," she said. "You're still human. Reed, whatever they did, you're still you." Before he could reply, a loud beep echoed from the wall console. Velia rushed over and checked it. A message flashed across the screen. "Unauthorized biosignal detected." "Oh no," she breathed. "They've picked it up. What does that mean?" Reed asked, his voice weak. Velia turned back to him. "It means the nanits inside you sent out a signal," she said. "Some kind of automatic broadcast. They know you're alive." Reed tried to sit up, groaning in pain. "We have to move," he said. "They'll come for me. You can't even walk properly." Velia said, kneeling beside him. "I'm not letting them take you." Reed gritted his teeth. "There's a place," he said, "under the ship near the reactor core. There's a vault." Velia looked confused. "A vault? What's inside?" "I don't know exactly," Reed said, "but they used to take me there during experiments. It's where the original nanite programming was stored. If we can reach it, maybe we can shut it off." Velia's eyes narrowed. "If you're right, then that vault is the only place that can save you." She grabbed her pack and pulled out another med shot. "This will numb the pain," she said, injecting it into his arm. Reed hissed but didn't resist. Within seconds, his breathing calmed a little. Together, slowly they stood. Velia helped him onto the left cart again and covered him with scraps. She opened the rear hatch of the room, an emergency maintenance tunnel that led down. The path was narrow, filled with broken pipes and old wiring, but it was their only chance as they moved deeper into the ship. The air grew thicker and hotter. Steam hissed from cracked vents, and the metal groaned under their feet. They passed signs with old warning symbols: radiation, corrosion, biohazard, all long dead, probably. Reed suddenly grabbed Velia's hand, his voice barely a whisper. "If I lose control down here, promise me you'll run." Velia stopped. "No," she said firmly. "I didn't save you just to watch you become a weapon. You'll stay human, Reed," she said, gripping his hand tightly. because I'll make sure of it, in the Badia. Darkness ahead, a strange humming sound began to echo. Velia turned on her light, and the beam landed on something massive, a sealed door. Covered in rust, but on its surface, something lit up responding to Reed's presence. Blue lines began to glow in patterns across the metal. The vault was real, and it had been waiting. The vault door responded to Reed like it recognized him. Blue lights moved across the rusted surface in slow waves. Then, with a low rumble, the metal began to shift. Velia stepped back, her hand tightening around the left cart as Reed leaned against it. Barely conscious, the heavy door opened with a hiss of ancient air. Inside was darkness deep and silent. Velia turned on her handlight and guided the cart forward. As they entered the vault, the temperature dropped. Frost clung to the walls like spiderwebs. It was quiet here, too quiet. No machines buzzed. No systems beeped. Only the soft sound of their footsteps echoed inside. Then suddenly, soft lights blinked on, one by one. Rows of glass tanks lined the walls, some broken, some still sealed. Inside some tanks were shapes, humanoid, half-formed. Unfinished, Velia shivered. What is this place? Reed's eyes fluttered open. His voice was tired, but steady. This is where they kept the early versions, he whispered. Failed ones. Before they used me, Velia looked at him. Why would they keep this place active? Reed shook his head. Maybe to remind themselves how far they came. Velia moved toward the main control panel. It was cracked but still working. She tapped into the system, and screens lit up, showing data codes, logs, files marked classified. She scanned the files quickly. One name kept appearing, Project Hybrid Dawn, and another, Subject 01. Reed Lawson, her eyes widened. You were the first? Reed gave a bitter smile. I was the prototype, he said. They said I survived longer than anyone. They didn't expect me to wake up with memories. Velia turned away, trying to hold back the anger boiling in her chest. These weren't just experiments. This was torture dressed as science. I found something, she said. There's a command here to reset the nanits. But I need a passcode. Reed leaned forward, his hands gripping the cart. Try 231 kilo 5. He said. Velia typed it in. The screen blinked. Accepted the code, and then the entire room began to hum. The tanks glowed brighter, and a small pod opened from the floor. Inside was a strange device, small, like a handheld tool. The display read, Nanit Reset KEYACT. Velia picked it up and walked back to Reed. This is it, she said. This could shut them down inside. You stopped the transformation. Reed nodded. Then let's do it. She aimed the device at his chest and activated it. A pulse of light shot into him. He gasped, his body shaking, blue light flashing under his skin. Then silence. Velia waited, heart pounding. Reed slowly opened his eyes. The lights on his skin were gone. He looked normal. It worked, he breathed. Velia smiled in relief, but then a beep. The control screen flashed again, this time red. Unauthorized access detected. Security alert triggered. Velia's face turned pale. Someone's coming, she said. Reed tried to stand on his own. We have to leave. They turned toward the vault door, but it was already closing. From the other side, a voice shouted, Velia. She froze. That voice, it was CERN, another alien from her team. She rushed to the door. CERN? What are you doing? I followed you, CERN shouted from the hallway. I knew something was wrong. You stole equipment, hid from patrols. You're helping a human. Velia's blood turned cold. No, listen, he's not dangerous. He needs help. I don't care. CERN barked. There's a reward for capturing a living human. Credits beyond anything we've dreamed of. Step aside, Velia. No, she said firmly, standing in front of Reed. I won't let you take him. The door started to open again slowly. Reed tried to pull himself up. Let me fight, he whispered. I'm not letting you get hurt because of me. No. Velia said, you're weak. You just got control back. I'll handle this. She moved toward the doorway just as CERN stepped in, armed with a shock baton. "I don't want to hurt you, Velia," he said. "But I will." She didn't flinch. "You'll have to," she replied, "because I'd rather die helping someone kind than live among those who forget what kindness is." CERN hesitated. But then he raised the baton only to be tackled from behind. Reed, using the last of his strength, had grabbed a metal rod and struck CERN hard. The weapon clattered to the floor. CERN groaned and collapsed, unconscious. Velia ran to Reed and caught him before he fell. "You idiot," she whispered, holding him tightly. "You should be resting." He gave her a tired smile. "I couldn't let you fight alone." They stood in silence as the red lights faded. The danger was far from over. Others would come, but now they had something more powerful than fear. They had trust, and they were no longer running blindly. They were fighting back together. Alarms still echoed through the lower levels of the ruined ship. The red lights flashed along the ceiling, casting sharp shadows across the metal walls. Velia held Reed tightly, his body weak from the nanite reset and the fight. CERN lay unconscious on the floor behind them, blood slowly dripping from his mouth. Reed tried to stand, but his legs trembled. "I'll slow you down," he muttered. Velia shook her head. "I don't care," she whispered. "We'll move together." She slung his arm over her shoulder and supported his weight as they limped out of the vault. Every second felt heavy. Velia's heart pounded like a drum. They had no more time to hide, no more time for quiet plans. They had to run. "We need an exit," she said, thinking fast. "Main tunnels will be crawling with security bots now. There's an old escape shaft," Reed said, pointing weakly. "It runs from the cooling bay up to the outer wall." "They used it to smuggle in test subjects," Velia grimaced. "Lovely," she muttered. "Let's go." They moved slowly through the maintenance corridors. The sound of heavy boots echoed behind them. Patrol units, maybe even bounty hunters. Word had spread. Somewhere along the way, Velia activated her cloaking badge, a small field around her and Reed. It wouldn't last long, maybe 10 minutes, but it was enough to get through the first checkpoint unnoticed. Reed's breathing grew heavy. "You don't have to do this," he whispered. "I'm not worth dying for." Velia looked at him, her face calm. "I'm not doing this because I have to," she said. "I'm doing it because I want to." They reached the shaft entrance, a narrow vertical tunnel with metal rungs going up forever. Velia sighed. "Okay," she muttered. "How do we do this with a half-dead human?" "There's a lift platform halfway up," Reed said. "If we can reach it, we ride up." She nodded. Step by step, Velia began climbing, Reed on her back, arms weak around her shoulders. The metal rungs were rusted, some nearly broken. The shaft groaned every time she moved. Her muscles burned. Her breath came fast. But she didn't stop. She wouldn't stop, finally. They reached the halfway point, a small broken platform barely wide enough for them both. Velia set Reed down carefully, her hands shaking. "I'm activating the lift," she whispered, tapping the old controls. Nothing happened, then click. The platform rumbled and began moving upward slowly. Reed leaned against her. "I didn't think I'd ever see the surface again," he said softly. Velia gave a tired smile. "Let's get there first." But just as the light above came into view, a loud screech echoed from below. They looked down. 2 drones had entered the shaft. Flying fast, Velia cursed. "Hold on." She pulled out a small pulse grenade from her belt, a gift from a friend on the black market. She had never used one before. She activated the timer and dropped it. Boom! A flash of blue light exploded below them. The shaft shook violently. The drones fell, spinning out of control. But the blast damaged the lift platform too. It jerked to a stop 10 feet below the top exit. The power was gone. Velia looked up. 10 feet, just 10 feet to freedom. She could climb it. But Reed couldn't. She turned to him. "I'll get out and pull you up," she said. Before he could argue, she was already climbing. Each pull hurt her arms, but she reached the top and threw open the hatch. Daylight poured into her face, blue skies, real wind, and the open world. freedom. She turned back and reached down. "Reed, give me your hand." He grabbed her wrist with all his strength. She pulled, teeth clenched, her arms shook, and he slipped a little, but she held on finally. He reached the edge and collapsed beside her, gasping for breath. They were outside, alive. The ruined landscape stretched for miles, but Velia knew a smuggler outpost nearby. If they made it there, they could disappear. Reed sat up slowly. "Velia," he said. "There's something I didn't tell you." She looked at him. "What now?" "When the vault reset the nanits, I saw something. A memory. Not mine. A clone like me, still active. Somewhere." Velia stared at him. "There's another you?" Reed nodded. "Maybe more than one. And if they're still controlled, they'll come after us." Velia stood up, brushing dust from her suit. "Then we stay ahead," she said. "And when they find us, we'll be ready." He looked at her with quiet amazement. "You're not afraid?" She gave a small smile. "I'm too tired to be afraid." As they walked away into the sunlit wasteland, a silent drone hovered far in the sky. Watching, its red eye blinked once, then disappeared into the clouds. The hunt was not over. The real fight had only just begun. The wasteland stretched for miles. Endless dunes of ash and broken stone lay ahead. The sun above was harsh. Burning through the thin clouds, Velia and Reed moved slowly across the cracked ground, both exhausted, both silent. Each step felt heavier than the last. But neither turned back. Behind them, smoke still rose from the ruined ship, and above them, something unseen kept watching. Velia checked the map on her scanner. "The smuggler's outpost is 2 clicks east," she said. "If we make it before sunset, we can get medical care, maybe even passage off-world." Reed nodded weakly. His body was still recovering, but something deeper had changed inside him. The reset nanits were quiet, but his mind wasn't. He looked up at the sky, eyes narrowed. "I don't think we're alone," he said. Velia paused. "What do you mean?" "I feel it," Reed said, tapping his temple gently. "Since the reset, I've been getting flashes, visions, like memories. But they're not mine." Velia's breath caught. "You think it's the clone? The other version of you?" Reed nodded. "Or one of them. They were connected through the same network. If the connection is waking up again, it means they're close." Just then, a sharp whine echoed from above. A shadow passed over them. Velia grabbed Reed and ducked behind a rock. A sleek black drone hovered overhead. Scanning the ground, it moved slowly, searching. Then it stopped, locked on their location. Velia cursed under her breath. "They found us." She pulled a small EMP pulse from her belt. Not powerful enough to destroy the drone, but maybe enough to blind it. She threw it high. The device exploded. With a flash of blue light, the drone twitched and fell, crashing into the dust. But it was too late. The signal had already been sent. "We have minutes, maybe less," Velia said. "We can't make it to the outpost now." Reed sat down, thinking hard. "There's another way," he said. "When I was taken, they showed me a place. A backup control hub hidden underground." Velia raised an eyebrow. "Where?" He pointed. "West, about 1 click from here. If we can reach it, I might be able to send a signal to shut down the clones." Velia looked at him carefully. "Are you sure?" Reed didn't answer immediately, but then he said, "No, but I have to try." Together, they turned and headed west. The wind picked up, throwing dust into their faces. The ground trembled lightly. Something was coming. They reached a jagged cliffside where the scanner showed a hidden door. Velia found the access panel and entered the last code Reed remembered. The wall opened with a deep rumble. Inside was a control room, dark, cold, and full of broken monitors, dust-covered. The floor, everything looked dead. Reed stepped forward, but as he neared the console, the lights flickered to life, and then a figure appeared in the doorway. Velia turned fast, weapon raised. It was a man taller, stronger, and identical to Reed, except his eyes glowed red. "So this is where you ran." the clone said in a cold voice. I felt you awaken. Reed stared at him. So it's true, he whispered. You're me. Or what they wanted me to become. The clone smirked. You're weak, he said, stepping closer. You rejected your purpose. Velia stood between them. He's not weak, she said sharply. He's human. The clone's face twitched. Humanity is extinct, he replied. But I remain. He raised his arm. Energy crackling in his palm. Reed stepped forward. No, he said. You don't get to decide who lives. He grabbed the control panel, typing fast. The clone rushed at him, but Velia fired her pulse weapon. Blasting him back, Reed slammed the final command. A loud hum filled the room, all across the sector. Signals went dark. Every clone, every active nanet went still. The clone dropped to his knees, eyes wide. You shut it down, he whispered, then collapsed, silent. Velia ran to Reed's side. He was bleeding from the impact, but smiling. We did it, he said. They're gone, Velia. Held his hand tightly. You stopped the future they were forcing, she whispered. You gave everyone a choice again. Outside, the skies were quiet. No drones, no alarms, just peace. As the sun set behind the cliffs, Reed sat beside Velia and looked out across the wasteland. What now? He asked. She smiled softly. Now, she said. We live, and for the first time in years, he believed her.